If you don't have any stress, you won't wake up in the morning. So we need that. And it's good because stress makes you to perform better.
I know you and I can talk about the light and the bright, but I want to go dark for a second in the fact that how women are 3 times more likely to suffer from anxiety and depression.
What keeps us alive in a longer time, of course, lifestyle and all of these things are important, but the most important one is our social relation with people. Depression is probably the worst illness you can have because this is the only illness that people are going to take their life away. In every other illness, we're trying to survive. Nothing is impossible. Everything is possible. I always say talent is poison gift. Why? Because if you give talent to someone who doesn't have the discipline, the desire, and the determination, it's going to do nothing. And you hear that all the time. Oh, this person has so much talent. Yeah, but talent bring you so far. But discipline and hard work will bring you a lot further. And it's never about sacrificing. It's always about...
Welcome back, or welcome to Grateful and Full of Greatness. I'm your host, Mark Lacini. And on this podcast, I sit down with individuals in pursuit of greatness. Today, I got the chance to sit down with Sylvain Guimond, PhD, one of the best sports psychologists in the world. He's not only worked with the Montreal Canadiens, Tiger Woods, Celine Dion, and many, many professional organizations and athletes. We had such a great conversation. We talked about what really matters, building upon our first episode from exactly 5 years ago. But we also went into the things that separate the good from the great to the best. And we used the opportunity of June being Men's Mental Health Awareness Month to talk about Claude Lemieux and individuals out there that are quietly suffering. I hope that this episode is an inspiration for individuals who are battling a tough time in their own life, that they seek connection and an outlet for themselves, and also sit in on a great conversation as we learn more about Sylvain's story from a 3rd grader that was getting held back, battling dyslexia, ADHD, all the way to being top 5 sports psychologist that ever lived. Thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy it. This podcast episode is sponsored by Whoop, the wearable technology that I wear every single day. We will put the discount code in the show notes, and one other, Thorn Health Tech, which are the products that I take to take my performance to the very next level. They're NSF certified for sport, highest quality, potency, and purity on the supplement market today, also in the show notes. So without further ado, let's dive in. Sylvain, I am so excited to have you back on. Exactly 5 years ago is when our recording is going to release.
Wow, time it fly, huh?
I couldn't imagine.
Well, Jackson asked me how long ago was it, and I couldn't tell. I said maybe just 2 or 3 years ago, and it's 5 years ago already. Amazing.
Thank you so much for coming back on. I think the world of you.
Very, very happy to be back, Mark, because I really appreciate what you're doing, and I think you're really a professional in all of the right sense of the word. I mean, I really believe you're a great human being, and also a great athlete, and also a good business model for all of youngsters, people listening to us today.
Thank you so much. And I received that. And one of the things that as I was preparing for this, I was listening to you on a different podcast, and the host complimented you and said, wow, you still look like you're in your 30s or 40s. And you said, when you're happy, you age slower. And I want to start there. Is that true? Because that's how you started this one, that you're a very happy person.
I am a very happy person, and I'm very happy because I'm surrounded by great people. And I try to find happiness in every small things that I do. So I have dogs and cats here at home, and in the morning when I get up, I'm always like, oh, they're always happy to see me. And at the same time, I when I take them close to me, I feel like I'm more human. And to me, I think animals and human being, it's important to get close to one another because we're living in a world where, things are not going that good, and it's sad. And I think we have to cherish all of the moments that we have together. And as I said, time flies, so better enjoying what you're doing. And if you go back to what you said, and it's a fun part that you said it, because Harvard University came up with a longitudinal study, so meaning on many years, and they were looking at first men. They were interviewing men and following them on their is what makes us to live the longer we can, and what is it that have human being to live longer. And they thought at first that it was probably hereditary things that you get from your parents, in your health. Then they thought it was your lifestyle. What kind of lifestyle do you have? Like if you train, if you do a lot of things that you eat well and stuff like that, that will keep you healthier. And actually, what they find out is that what keeps us alive in a longer time, of course, lifestyle and all of these things are important, but the most important one is our social relation with people, the way we interact with people. So if you'd like to know more about this study, just click on Harvard University, the study on long, happy living and longer living, and they find out that after many years of that, they started with men, and then they have the family of those people, and then they have the grandchild of those people, and then they kept on having this studying, and find out that those that lived longer on those group that they were studying were those that were happy and having good relation around them. And I think it's the same thing if you look at I think it's on Netflix. It's called The Blue Zone. So the Blue Zone, it's the same thing. They find out the places on this planet where people live longer, and they find exactly the same thing. It's these places where people live longer. It's because they are still involved in their life, even when they are older. So people keep them at home with them. They refer to them. They make them feel important, even though they're old. And they go to them and for advice and things like that, and it keeps them to be happier and also to live longer. So to me, that's why I think when we talk about psychology and the way we interact with one another, it's more than just the mental part. It's the physical part that is also involved in this, and this is why I think it's important to have great relation with people. And if it doesn't, just make sure you don't keep a relation that hurts you. So just keep on moving. That's it.
I remember the first time you and I spoke, I was with Dr. Versari, our mutual connection, who we both think the world of. And she said, I want you to meet Sylvain Guimond. So I'm just going to get him on the phone and you guys can talk for a minute or two. We were about to go to dinner and I got on the phone with you. And what was it, an hour or 2 hours later? Yeah. We missed our reservation and you and I are just going back and forth and back and forth. Where does that desire and love for connection come for you? I know in our first time speaking, you shared that your parents lived into their 90s, married over 70 years, and you're one of 8 kids. Does it go back to your family, or is that more genetic and personality for you?
I think it comes from my family, the way I was raised. My parents were like lovers, and they were lovers for all of their lives. So they shared that with us, and they were loved by other people around them. So my parents, and the way they raised us, 8 of us, 7 boys and 1 girl, they raised us not with money, but with love, a lot of love. And I think that's so important, because this is what I like to do the most. And when I was with the Montreal Canadiens for almost 4 years, I was called Dr. Love. So my nickname was Dr. Love, because I wanted to make sure that every teammates would not just like each other, but love each other, to make sure that they were there for one another and helping them out, So, and I remember very well, 2 of our players didn't like each other. When I got into this team, they were playing together before, and they didn't like, because they were so different from one another. I mean, one was so introverted and the other player was so extroverted. And when I told them, I said, The introverted person says, I cannot feel this guy. I don't like him. So he told me that. And I said, you know what? This is bad because that's the person you need the most in the team. If you mix well with him playing defenseman, both of them were defensemen. I said, if you appreciate him, it will help you to get the best season of your life, the best hockey season you've never got before. And he looked at me and said, no way, no F way. And I said, okay, that's the problem. Then if you don't want to get a good season, that's your problem because this is your contract year. So if it doesn't go that well, who knows? Maybe where you're going to be. And I finished my talking with him this way. So the morning right after that, we got into the rink where we practice, and he's standing at my office, the door of my office. And I remember very well, Michel Terrien was the head coach, says, oh, this is your new best friend. He's waiting for you. So I got to him, and as soon as I talked to him, I said, okay, how can I help you? So we got into my office. He said, you told me I could get the best season of my life, as a hockey player. I said, how can I get that? And I said, you got to appreciate Piqué Subban. Piqué Subban was a defenseman, but very loud. The kind of person you will feel probably in a basketball team, but not in hockey. And he told me, okay, what do I have to do? I said, appreciate his difference instead of being against how different it is from you. Appreciate how different he is, because this is where you guys will complete one another. I mean, if we are exactly the same, because most people say, I'm going into business with Bob. Bob and I, we think alike. We're exactly the same. I told them, I said, don't do that, because you guys will have the same strength and the same weakness. Get in business with someone who's so different than you, so that you guys will have more solution to one problem instead of thinking the same way. If we think alike, we have the same solution for the problem. But the way to have problem solutions together is to think differently. And probably the answer lies in between what you think and what I think. So it's something in between. And that's what makes sense. And I told him exactly that. And I said, you need to. And then one day, after a goal that they did a goal, he took him and gave him a big kiss on his helmet. And the guy took this pictures. The players took this picture and put that in the locker room and say, thank you, Dr. Love. So it became my nickname at that time, because these two guys ate one another. But Piqué Subban really liked him, as Markov was a Russian guy. And when he got married, he invited Piqué Subban at his wedding. So I thought, okay, I've done my job, because it went beyond hockey. It's just they were becoming good friends.
That's wonderful. As you were speaking, I was actually thinking about, I took a course when I was at Yale. It was called Nuclear Politics. It was talking about how different countries were always threatening each other. And we learned the difference between just tolerating somebody, which you kind of just always are sweeping things under the rug, versus fully accepting them, right? And then you just brought in this third frontier, which is appreciating them, right? It's not just accepting somebody for who they are, but going beyond that. And I often talk about this when it comes to training my own psychology. It has certainly made me more curious than furious. Sylvain, I want to jump right into the reason why I called you right away, and I wanted to have you on the podcast. I was working out at the gym, and there's an individual there who's a very successful sales and trader, and he usually comes in with positive energy. And he walks in and he looked white as a ghost, and he came right over to me, perhaps because we have a good relationship, perhaps because he knows what I do. And his very best friend that he was with 4 days earlier was Claude Lemieux. And he was just talking to me about, Mark, I was with him 4 days ago, and we didn't talk about this, and anyways, he was pointing to the fact that Claude was a very introverted guy, and he was just devastated that he wishes he said something or did something. So I know you and I can talk about the light and the bright, but I want to go dark for a second, and the fact that our conversation is all about love and connection here. And I'm sure that you could shed light on on this situation, because right now, as this gets released, it's June, men's mental health. And in our first episode, you talked about how women are 3 times more likely to suffer from anxiety and depression, and men
Yeah,
are 3 times more likely to take their own life because of it. So I just wanted to share that with you, because it was
yeah,
a gut-wrenching day for me, and then you could take it
and
from
yeah.
there.
And I've known Claude when he played, but I've known also his brother. His brother works with me, and his brother was also an NHL player. And we worked together at RDS, like a TSN for you in the States, um, and we were and I saw him like just a few days before, because the Montreal Canadiens asked him during the playoff to wear the torch, like before the game. So he had at that time 20,000 people just cheering for him and telling him how much they loved him, and I think that is very hard for any players, for any athletes to retire and feel that love and missing that love. And probably, time will tell, but we'll probably know if he had like concussions or things like that, was not mentioned. But he, going through depression and feeling that your life is hard to go every single day. That's why I said depression is probably the worst illness you can have, because this is the only illness that people are going to take their life away. And every other illness, we're trying to survive. But this one is not because the people don't want to live. It's because they don't want to suffer anymore. So it's to make the difference between, it's not ending their life that they want to do. It's ending that suffering that they are going through. That's why I think it's important to be close to these people, because at the end of the day, what is sad about someone who's taking their life away is that it's a permanent solution for sometimes just a problem that could be solved and we can help them. But at that point, it comes to a place where they feel like ending their life would be the solution to stop suffering. So that's why they go to this. And when they start thinking about it, they feel more and more in peace as soon as they take that decision. And sometimes that decision is not taking on the last minute just before they do it. They were thinking about it for a long time and not telling that people about their plan. Because you and I, we did psychology, and you know as well as I do that if someone is telling you that they have ideas of having suicidal, to commit suicidal, we have to ask them, okay, and so what's your plan? How are you going to do it? And we ask them in very details, how do they plan to do that? And then you would know exactly if they are just saying that in a light way, because it should never be light. This is something so important. But at the same time, we have, as professional, we have to act when they say that to us. Because if you're not, it would be like negligent. It would be like, not doing your job. So we have to tell them, if you're telling me this, I have to make sure that, first of all, you're not a danger for yourself or for someone else. So we have to act. Now that you're telling me this, I have to do something. I cannot just take it lightly and say, well, I just said it like that. It doesn't it's not something we have to take it lightly. So this is what I'm telling people. When you feel like someone needs help, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to say, hey, if there's anything I can do, my door is always open. I'm here for you. But most of the time, we don't know. They look like they're fine. I mean, Claude Lemieux was in Montreal and smiling like no one could tell that he was suffering inside. Because from the outside, this is something we don't see most of the time. So that's why we feel like, oh, I should have done something more. Well, there's no way, because you don't know. And that's why we feel at that time that maybe I should have done something. Maybe I should have do this or this. But you know what? Most of the time, we don't know. It's just because if people are saying that they need help, then you can help them. But most of the time, when they're very serious about it, they won't talk about it.
Mm.
It's those of those are not that far in the process of thinking about it. They will say it, but those of them, those people that are so close to take from an idea and to make it as an action, it's hard because when the decision is made, they won't talk about it. They'll just do it.
As you were speaking, the word peace really jumped out to me. I keep in my office at home this word that I learned recently. It's called equanimity, and equanimity means peace or tranquil. And in our field of sports psychology, the athlete or the individual doesn't want the win as much as the belief that they will find peace from winning, which is a very interesting thing. So people who feel like I need to win or I have to win are coming from an energy source, meaning that they're lacking peace right now. And I just find that fascinating because that's really what we're all after. We're after the peace. And we sometimes believe that getting a trophy or a medallion or something like this is going to give us that equanimity, when how do we find it with or without the trophy, with or without the championship? And I heard Dr. Michael Gervais, who's also part of Dr. Versari's mentor tree, on Finding Mastery, he asked individuals, do you lean more anxious or depressed? And it's a very interesting question. Anxiety being a bias towards action and depression being a bias towards rest. I guess I just want to pull on the thread of depression one last time, because to me, it's people are pushing down and depressing their true, authentic feelings and emotions, other than helping the individual on once they proclaim suicidal ideation and saying what's your plan and how you're going to do it and making sure you pull them out of their heart and to their head. What do you think could be done so that it becomes more normalized, that people are speaking about it rather than seeing it as weak?
Mark, this is a good point you're bringing, because athletes we think that because they are well known sometimes and because they're making money and they're living their dreams, because there's no one athlete that could go through all of that is asking from them to become good, and not being happy. You should be happy. So when I have pro athletes that are calling me and they say, "Hey doc, I think I lost my confidence," I'm saying, okay, we'll pray and we'll probably find them out. There's a way of finding it, to make sure we can find it back. Yeah. And the second things I told them, I said, okay, when you were 14 years old, what was your dream? They all tell me I wanted to be an NHL player. So you know what? I told them, I said, you know what? You are an NHL player. So you should be happy at this moment. And actually they're asking me, and then they realize, yeah, you know what? I should be proud and happy of where I am at this moment. Well, of course, things are not doing that well. That's what they call us. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a job, the two of us. But they call us when things are not doing that fine. And they will always believe that they're going to get through by themselves. So until one day they say, well, I don't think I can get out of this by myself, so I need help. So they'll ask help. And the funny thing is this, we find out that the athletes that are winning, they are more suicidal than those that are losing. So this is very important. We find out that at the Olympics, they did a study on that and asking that people that have won a gold medal, after they won, they have more depressions than people that finish second and third. And the reason is simple for that. When you and I, Mark, are fixing, objectives and goals, we are aiming for a goal. When you got your goal at, I would say 30 years old, and this is the goal of your life, to get a Stanley Cup or whatever, and you got this, or you got a gold medal at the Olympics, and say, oh, I wanted to have a gold medal at the Olympics. And you get a gold medal at the age of 26, 25, whatever. what is the second goal you have? What could be as high as a feeling as living a gold medal? Not much. That's how they think. So when you put all your attention on one thing and then you get that thing, make sure you got something right after. But those who are finished second and third, the funny thing is they say, okay, well, I'll still be there in 4 years. I'm gonna stay and maybe make it for the. So instead of being full of that emotion that is saturated, they still are thinking. They still are questioning themselves. Okay, do I have the energy to go for another 4 years? Because I'm so close, I want to get it. So for them, it's not finished. They're still on the road. The danger is the end of the road. What do you do at the end of the road? So when people are getting, and they want to achieve something and they do achieve them, this is where it becomes dangerous. Because it's not peace that is just after that. People think it's going to be, I'm going to be in peace because I'm going to, I have success. It's never enough. It's when you are not hungry anymore, when you're fed, this is it. You always have to keep on being hungry in life. Still wanted to bite on life, having something else, getting something after you do that. That's why I say to people, every time I'm talking to my athletes, I said, don't do it for yourself. It's not important. Do it to be a model. Do it for what you're going to leave behind. Be a legend. Be someone that people will turn to. It doesn't matter how old you're going to be, but nobody can take away what you already achieved. But take this achievement and share it with people. That's what we're doing today. The two of us, this is what exactly we're doing. And you as a pro athlete and myself as a doctor in psychology, my first background was in biomechanics or for back problem. That's why I'm a DO. I'm a doctor in osteopathic medicine. So like an MD, this is what my life was. But I find out that when I had athletes that were injured, they were coming to me because they were injured. Physically, it's easy. We always know, this, an ACL is going to take that time and this. It's easy. The worst thing is when their brain gets into this and say, whoa, I'm worried. I'll still be able to be as good as I was. Will someone else take my place? Because this is what it is. Pro athletes there's always people waiting for you to either be injured or to take your retirement and then take your place. There's so many, youngsters that are waiting to take this place. So they know that very well. So when they get injured, the first thing is they're not worried about physically. They're worried about, oh shit, well, I'll be able to come back at the same level that I was and will still be on the top of my game, or will someone else take my place? So that's why I decided to go on and do a master degree and a PhD in psychology, because I needed that to help my athletes to go through injuries. And I think that's the same thing. And then at the end, it's always meaning make sure that it's not over. There's always something after.
Yeah.
So athletes that are in transition and they find out someone else, something else to do, they're still happy because they're chasing after something. When you stop chasing, life is over.
Right.
It could be chasing after so many other things. Chasing about happiness, chasing about, having fun, chasing about so many other things that are more important than sports. Sports is just a part of life. That's all it is. And life is exactly like sports. There's going to be the same thing, losing and winning and wearing and all of this. And I say to people, and when you have a lot of anxiety for a long time, your brain has only one way to go. It's down. And it's depression. Because if you are anxiety with so many years of anxiety, one day your brain says, I cannot take it anymore. So you go into the depression, not because it's no good, just because this is too much. Yeah. And then, and if you come out of depression, that is so amazing. Because when you touch something, really hard, and people that are listening to us today and watching this broadcast together, when you go to something tough and then it's over, it's exactly like after there's a rainbow,
Yeah.
and you will enjoy life more than before
Yeah.
because you know what it is. It's like, I always say life is good after something that was bad because you find, okay, I don't want to go back there, but now I'm going to enjoy it. And things that were, free for you and that never realize how happy you were. When you go to a downside of this, when happiness comes back, you just don't want to let it go anymore. Just
That's right.
realize how important it is.
There's a short talk that I give on like the molecules around leadership, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin,
Yeah.
and endorphins being like the four molecules. Dose is how I talk about it, right? Dopamine is the one I want to hit on most, but the other ones are oxytocin, which is the love one that we first talked
Yeah.
about in this conversation. Then serotonin tracks status. That's why we're always moving up a hierarchy in sport or in
Yeah.
life. And then endorphins, we get that from exercising, but also from pain relief. The thing that I wanted to point to, though, is dopamine. You hear that a lot, dopamine, and it really is this balance molecule between pain and pleasure. And if you only have pleasure from too many games or too many quick hits of no suffering before getting those hits, then all is left is pain. And I love in your answer how you gave this perspective on the necessity of goal, right? We only experience positive emotion if we have an aim and see ourselves progressing towards that aim. If we don't have an aim, no positive emotion. And then many people will say, well, where do I find my aims? And one of the things I would point to is their pain. You find your aims in your pain. And the reason why I say that is because goals and problems are pretty much the same thing. Goals is a positive connotation for your problems. If you have a messy room or a messy house, clean that up. That's a goal, or a long-term one, which would be, winning the Olympics. But these pleasure-seeking things that you only chase down, all that's left is pain because the brain is trying to balance out your dopamine levels. My question for you has a lot to do with the idea of being on that end of the road and feeling that you want to break through into the next endeavor. In our first conversation, and I hope listeners will go back and listen to that one from 5 years ago, you mentioned that our problems increase our empathy. I really like that line that you said. We become a more empathetic person by our own problems. And you were so vulnerable in going in through all the way back to your third grade years and the things that
Yeah.
you were battling and things like that. Could you just go on that in terms of, some of the problems that you had to overcome early on? And then my main question is, when did you feel that you started to break through?
I don't know if I break through or not yet. Because I'm not over yet. And I'm in the process, and I do trust the process. That's all. But the point is, when I was young, my parents, I had dyslexia. I was not good in writing and stuff like that. So I fell in grade three. I was like very young. I was like maybe 8 or 9 years old, and all of my brothers and my sister, they were really really good in school, and I wasn't good. So to me, my identity, who I was like, whoa, shit, I'm no good, and my family are all good in schools. Until I find in high school a teacher, a nun. She taught me on the side and had me do a math problem, and I find out the answer. But it took me a long, long time to find the answers. But instead of telling me that I was slow, she said, "Wow, you're very creative. It's better to say to someone you're creative than slow." So I believed her, and it changed my life. So words can kill or words can heal. And to me, those words that she gave me at that time changed my life. Say, okay, if that person that I trust a lot, and she was like, has a PhD in physics and was teaching maths in high school, I said, if she believes that I'm smart, I mean, she has all the credential to do so. So maybe she's right. So instead of believing myself that I was not that good, I said, if she said I'm good, to me, I wanted to believe her more than I believed in myself. So it changed my life by, starting to think of myself differently than was what I was putting as a label on myself. I was labeling myself as a good athlete, but not good in school. But that day it changed my life, and I started to believe in myself. So the self-esteem that you have, how do you believe in yourself, is so important, because that will make yourself to be able to have the courage to try things. But if the evaluation of yourself is low, it's hard to make any challenges, because you say, well, I won't be good enough, so you don't have enough power to say I'm going to do it anyways, because I do believe in myself. So when you say a lot of people are saying you have to believe in yourself, and that is true, because if you don't, it's hard to take the first step. So by having someone that I find that she was very good in what she was doing, so I said maybe she's right. So I started to believe in what she told me, and it changed my life. So the words that we say to ourselves and the words that we hear from others have a huge impact on ourselves. And when we are young, it's even more important, because this is where you are building your own identity. So when we talk to our kids and to our people, the youngsters, we have to make them believe that they're good. They're just, you're enough. That's good. That's, just believe in yourself. And if you do that, then nothing is impossible. I mean, everything is possible.
Sylvain, I have the opportunity this upcoming week I'm doing the commencement speech at SDUIS and all about integrative studies. And one of the things that I love about your journey is you start in biomechanics, the physical side, and understanding the spine. And then I think from me understanding your story, you had both your hockey endeavors in which you were navigating and figuring out how to play from a high mental perspective, but then you also worked with motorsports and race car drivers and seeing how they were able to handle the intensity. My question for you is, your arc seems to have a cool beginning in biomechanics, the body, and then understanding the mind and the mental aspects so deeply. And then you also seem like a very spiritual person. Is that true, that you kind of have covered all three of those bases and you have a love for all of them?
Yeah, well, you're right on, because I was a hockey player myself, and I did have a scholarship to play hockey. But I'm only 5'3", so I'm the height of the other players' jackstrap, so I'm very small. But I always thought in my head that when I play hockey, I was 6'4". I was not 5'3", So I did very well, and I had a scholarship to play hockey in McGill University and in the States at first to play in NCAA, and then came back to Montreal, and I signed to be a professional hockey player in Switzerland, and then I got in a bad injury. I have an ECA ripped, so at that time, a long time ago, you had to be out for at least a year. And I knew that this was over. I couldn't go and have a professional life in Europe. So that's why I kept on studying and keeping on learning. So yeah, the biomechanic part taught me a lot about sports. And I did exercise physiology after that. So I did, it's called spinal biomechanics. So I did this applied biomechanical engineering of the spine. So that's what I did at first, and then I did exercise physiology at McGill. So I was doing testing, like the VO2 max, strength, endurance, power, all of those tests, and I put them all together, and I created the software to do that. And it was one of the first software. I'm talking about, this is mid 80s, so that's a long time ago. And software was not that high at that time. I mean, people were they were starting having a personal computer and stuff like that. And I decided to learn how to do programmation so that I could help in doing building this software. And now this software is pretty much all around the world, and it's been used by millions of people. But it started as an athlete, and then as a biomechanics specialist, and then in exercise physiology. And that I put in the neuropsychology in, because my wife, she's a neuropsychologist. And with the PhD that I done with Dr. Varsary, I did posture, personality, and pain. So putting all of them together, the physical part and also the mental part, it all makes sense. And at the end, so this Biotonix, it's called Biotonix. That's the name of my business. came up to be a full circle. And my daughter now, she's an MD, so we put all of the medical testing in. And my son-in-law is nucleus medicine, so in nuclear medicine, knowing about all of the imagery of health, so putting all of this together has made a very complete kind of program. So yeah, as you said, I started in biomechanics, went into psychology, and then back into biomechanics and psychology, and put it back all in an application on a cell phone, because my dream was to help as many people as I can. And you cannot do that when you're facing people face to face, because if I want to talk to you, and it's pretty good because we are online right now doing together, but at the same time, I wanted to have something that people could take care of their health, as well as their physical health and mental health. That's why we created Biotonix.
My curiosity is getting the better of me right now, so I just want to ask a short question before I ask you about Biotonics. You seem like a very enthusiastic, spiritual, and faith-based person all the time. Is that true about you? Are you a very faith-based
No,
and spiritual person? Could you talk about
I'm
that?
I'm very spiritual. Of course, I do believe in that. I think it would be hard to believe that that's we are here and there's no reason after that and there's nothing after. I mean, wouldn't make sense to me, because I think there's something before and there's something after us, and I think there's something more important that is connecting all of us together. I'm not a religion person, because but I'm spiritual. This is very different, because I I'm afraid of religions, because they are responsible for so many wars in our with the way people think. And I think we should all believe in our as human being, as a species, and also as having a creator that would all connect together, but not believing in certain ways of doing things. And if you are, I'm this and you are this, and I'm Catholic, you're Protestant, you are this, you are this. I mean, to me, this creates more people to separate than one another than getting them together. So yeah, spirituality for me is to believe that there's something more than us. So in a humble way, it's nice, and that it's the same. You and I, we are the same, and people are so fighting with difference. But if we look our DNA, your DNA and my DNA is pretty much the same. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, gray, yellow, brown, green, doesn't matter. The color of your skin, if you're men, women, whatever, we're all the same. So I wrote a book on that, and it says the power of our difference, and it comes from generation to generation. We're all the same. If you look at all of our sexual orientation, it's we're all the same anyways. It doesn't really matter to me. We are a lot way more alike than we are different, and we have to think like that. And I'm sad every time that I hear that there's a war going on and things like that, and those war, it's always children that are paying the price for that, and it makes me sad. So if we would all believe that we are all connected, why would we fight?
Hmm.
There's only one big family. John Lennon said it in a very great song, that wishing there's no country, there's nothing to fight or die for, and that we're all together. That would be a dream come true.
It's so wonderful, and I love the seemingly dichotomy or paradox between differences yet connection. So I want to
Yeah,
go there. I remember when you gave me the opportunity to dive into biotonics, and you take in things where if people are outside of the field of psychology, they wouldn't understand how personality or posture has something to do with the connectivity of how I'm doing internally, right? So could you talk about biotonics? I find it
yeah,
endlessly fascinating how not only is someone's personality tied to how they act and how they view the world and make decisions, but
yeah.
also the posture or lack thereof that posture that they have.
The first time that I met with Dr. Varsary, I told her, I said, when I look at someone's posture, I can almost tell them what kind of personality they have, like if you're introverted or extroverted, and she said, this is, I find the same way. So we thought at first that we would be writing a white paper or something like that. And find out that I did my PhD instead and working together. To me, posture and biomechanics, it's connected with your personality types, and it's important to understand that we are using the same words than we do in biomechanics. Orientation of the energy, extroverted or introverted. Orientation of how you are positioned in space, it's the same thing. Attitude, which is the last one that the mother and the daughter, Myers and Briggs, the MBTI, the one that we're using with Christian Anniversary. The last one is attitude. In life, when we talk about posture, it's always about your attitude. How do you stand? Same thing. So I was very surprised to see that in psychology, as well as in biomechanics, we had the same language to talk about, positioning of your body in space. And then I went further than that, and I said, okay, what about posture, personality? There's 4 types of dichotomy, and also what about pain? The pain that I feel like, and my brain doesn't know the difference in between a stress that is psychological stress that my thoughts are creating, or a stress because I have to fight, they're like a physical stress, or a stress that I'm sitting down right now and my head is not well positioned. So there's a center of mass to my head, and there's a lever arm, and it creates more stress in my spine. This is really physical, but it's called stress. So it's the same exact words that we're using. And the first person to talk about stress, his name was Anne Cellier. And Anne Cellier came here in Montreal at McGill University to do research on stress. And he didn't say that stress was something negative. He said stress is neutral. A positive stress, it's called eustress. This is the stress that we're using as sport athletes to give us to be better. That's what we call just before getting onto the rink and playing. This is the emotion you need. You need to get some stress, otherwise you wouldn't perform well. So that's eustress. A stress that is negative, it's called a distress. So you see, stress is nothing. Stress is just a word to say that there's a stress, but it could be positive or it could be negative. But most of us, when we talk about stress, we're afraid of stress. Well, stress, I need that. If you don't have any stress, you wouldn't wake up in the morning. So we need that. And it's good because stress makes you to perform better at a certain level. If the stress lasts too long, if the stress is negative and it comes back all the time, you're going to find yourself to be in anxiety. So anxiety mode, when it lasts too long, also will bring you to be in depression. So that's why when you talk about being stressed, what people are saying to themselves, oh, I'm not stressed, I'm not stressed. So what your brain does, it takes away I'm not and takes stress because you're talking about stress. If you and I were living our life, best life, and we're having fun, we're not saying, whoa, you know what? We're living our best life now. We're not stressed out. Whoa. No, you just live your life. You want to just convince yourself that you're not stressed when you are stressed. Because when you're living life and you're not thinking about stress, you're just living your life. So when you say I'm not stressed, your brain keep away the stress out and keep stress. So it's like exactly if you were walking on the street with a 3-year-old kid, okay? And you know that they love to jump into water, and you see there's a water flag right there, and you say, oh, don't jump in it. Well, they're going to be in it in 1 minute. Poof. So when you say I'm not stressed out, your brain says, okay, if you were not stressed, you wouldn't talk about it. So that's why my wife and we wrote a book. It says, anxiety, be my guest. Instead of being afraid of anxiety or stress, invite them in. Stress is exactly like a mother-in-law. If you invite them in, they won't come. But if you don't, they're going to be right in. I hope there's not too many mother-in-law that are watching this today. But I'm serious. It's like if you're afraid of it, it's gonna, grab you. But if you're in charge, if you say, come in, stress won't have any effect on you because you're not afraid of it.
Yeah, there's something about, I think it's if you're listening right now, a really cool and quick Google search to look up the difference between eustress and distress, and to really take stock in your life of what people make you feel eustress, what activities make you feel eustress, and really stacking those and avoiding the distressful things in your life. Anxiety be my guest. I've always talked about pressure as you hold hands with pressure, which is very in line with the anxiety. Be more my guest. My first mentor in sports psychology used to use the analogy of a beach ball. And if you had a beach ball and you went out into the ocean with the beach ball and you tried to go to a place you couldn't stand and push it down, what's going to happen to the ball? Pressure is going to build up and it's going to explode, and not in a direction that you know or want it to. So we're being able to hold hands and befriend stress. And I really think it comes back to the story we tell ourselves, right? When you hear the word stress, most people would say, oh, that's a negative word. That's a negative word. You want less of that. You want acute stress in the way you would like it.
And you have to, this is something easy to say. My left hand is stress, okay? And this is the way I cope with stress, okay? This is resistance. So stress is a strength. It's a force. So if I press against my other hand and I'm trying to resist, the force in between my two hands are getting higher. So the stress is a lot more. But if I'm not afraid of stress, if I invite him in and I say, okay, you can press, and I'm accepting it, it doesn't have any effect on me. It's okay. It's just there's no more force acting against you. It's acting with you. I work with, wrestler in Japan. The sumo. The sumo wrestler in Japan. I love to go there. I feel like I'm thin when I go to work with them. And one of my wrestlers' name is Koauka. And one day, Mark, I get into this place where he trains, and he has his hand joints like this, and he's got his eyes closed. Okay, and I can think that he's either praying or thinking or meditating or something like that. It's just inside of himself. So I said to Masako, who's the translator, I said, Masako, when Kuaka just opened his eyes, just ask him what was he thinking about when he had his hand together and his eyes closed. And she asked him, and he said, I was thinking my opponent, my next Saturday opponent. I was telling him in my head, thank you of being so good, because you are so good, you make me better.
Wow.
This is so strong. You and I, we played sports, and you are the best lacrosse player in the world. So there's not much I can teach you about teams and how to perform well. And we sometimes say, the teams had overconfidence. They were overconfidence. And I always say it doesn't exist. You can never have too much confidence. It's not having something too much. It's a lack. It's a lack of respect for your opponent. That's why you lost. You never lost because you had too much confidence. You can never have enough. But it's the arrogance of thinking that your opponent is not as good as you are. That part is a lack of respect for your opponent. Same thing goes for any business that you are running. If one day you think that your competitions is not as good as you are, close your door. Do something else in life, because you will never be as good, because thinking that you're, and talking against them and say that, oh, good, they're not good, and things like that, it doesn't make you better. It makes you worse. Right. So it's by having respect of the things that you have to do, not only competition, but also on the task. If you ask me to do something, and I know there's a big challenge, you know what I do with big challenge? I get myself prepared. I prepared myself, and I make sure that I'm going to do a great job. And if you give me a job that I think that it's easy to do, and I don't have much respect for that job, you know what? We all miss the boat. We do very poorly in things that are easy to do. And we always do very well in things that is a great challenge. You
Yeah.
ask people, where were you proud of yourself? They say, well, I did this. I never thought I was going to be able to do that. Well, you get respect for the task you had to do. Because you give respect for the task you have to do. What did you do? You prepared yourself in a proper way. And that's why you perform well. And the day that you think that what you have to do, you don't have to prepare yourself, you miss. You just, you lose. So it's always about, respect of the task that you have to do and respect of the opponent or the competition you have to face. But one day when you think that it's easy and you don't have to prepare yourself, you just turn the corner and you miss. So challenge is great as long as you prepare yourself for great challenges.
So let's talk about challenge for a second here, because the individual who wrote the book Gulag Archipelago, Alexander Solzhenitsyn, he said that the line between good and evil runs through every human heart. And when you talk to me about challenge, the imagery that comes to my brain is the yin yang symbol and the Taoist symbol of people saying the way, that's what they say, the way in life is between chaos and order. And actually is very similar to the right and left hemisphere of our brains. The right deals with more chaos and uncertainty. And once you start to rep something out and become more prepared and skilled at something, it moves to the left side of your brain where there's more order. And we don't want things to be too orderly and boring. And we don't want things to be too chaotic and anxiety provoking. And I want to make the connection that you really gave me there as I was listening to you, because I too have been to Japan a few times, and I went to go see the sumo wrestlers, and I was so fascinated to ask this question, just like, on Grateful and Full of Greatness. I asked the woman if she could go ask the sumo wrestler what separates those who are really great from the very best, because from my understanding, like there's like a really top tier. There's like 700 roughly, and then like there's a top 25. And she went over and she asked him. He thought for a moment and then said a quick answer to her. And she lit up and came scurrying back over to me. And she said to me, Shin, Ji, Tai. Shin being heart, Ji being skill, and Tai being body. They have a strong body. They're skilled. But then she kept hitting her chest just like this. And Sylvain, at the end of our first time together 5 years ago, I asked you, what is greatness? And you know what you said? You said a humble heart, a child's heart. That was your answer about greatness. So I'm trying to formulate a question around it, but it seems to me that the very best don't just have the physical or the cognitive understanding, but it's something down here.
I call it the 3H. It has to go to your head. Think of something that you'd like to do, okay? And it makes sense. Everything is rational, make all of dots getting together. Then take this from your head, put it in your heart. Does it still make sense? Do this that I think of the way that it should be done. Do I feel it? Do I feel it in my heart? So it's head, heart, and then end. Make it happen. Do it. So the 3H for me is so important. And the only way to have the 3H, there's only one way to do it. And it's to the 3D. 3H, 3D. Remember this. The 3D is desire. What's your desire? What would you like? What's your goal? What's the end of all of this? Why are we doing this? What's the desire? And make sure that the desire becomes not only a desire, but it's something that I have to do. I have to do it. It's just not desired. It's something I need so bad. So that will do the second D. The second D is determination. What are you willing to pay to get what you want? What's the price? There's a price on everything. So are you willing to pay the price, getting yourself ready, go to bed early, eat well, be disciplined. And the last thing is this: discipline. Desire first. The second one is, what are you willing to pay? And the last one is discipline. What you need to do it.
So in the book by Scott Peck, The Road Less Traveled, he took the top of my head off when he said self-discipline and self-caring are the same thing. Because just like stress, discipline usually gets a hard connotation, right? Discipline is very hard to do. But Scott Peck makes the argument that the best way to care for yourself is actually to be disciplined. It's not hard. Yeah. It actually is very soft.
Well, a lot of people are saying, well, you got good in lacrosse because you did a lot of sacrifice. And I always say that when you have a lot of love for what you do, it's passion. Passion goes to your heart. It doesn't go to your head. Oh, I'm passionate in my head. No, passionate in my heart. So if I'm passionate with my heart, it's not a sacrifice. A sacrifice means I'm putting things aside because, this is a sacrifice. This is hard. I sacrifice this. I sacrifice time. I sacrifice going to the bar. Instead of going to the bar, I went to train. This is not a sacrifice. This is a decision. The decision is something that I make in willing to do this, and I'm not sacrificing anything. So people are saying, well, you have to sacrifice things in life to be successful. No, you're doing things that you love. If you do something that you love and that you are going good for others, you're going to be successful. It's never about yourself. It's never about having something for you. It's having something to help others and being way bigger than just a human being like ourselves. It's helping other people. That when you do that, then it gives a reason to go further, because it's not only my small self. It's not only me as a small person. It's me as a human being, as being with people. And you find out that, and it's funny because when you look at people that have success, most of the time they're very humble, nice. Of course they have talent. I mean, and talent is, I always say talent is then, it's a poisoned gift. It's poison gift.
Oof.
Why? Because if you give talent to someone who doesn't have the discipline, the desire, and the determination, it's going to do nothing. Right. And you hear that all the time. Oh, this person has so much talent. Yeah. But talent bring you so far. But discipline and hard work will bring you a lot further. Mm-hmm. And it's never about sacrificing. It's always about, passionate. Passionate will bring you to be first on the ice, be last on the ice, to do all of the small things that other people are not willing to do, and then bring you to the second level. So, of course, talent is something important, but it's not that important because there's a lot more people that have success without not as much talent as other people, but they work harder and they were willing to pay the price to get what they get. So when people say, oh, you are lucky to get this job, when people say, oh, you're so lucky you got the great job. No, it's not luck. It was meant to be because you did work hard to get it. It's never, we're not having what we want because of luck. We're having what we want because of the discipline we put in. I mean, you decided to go on and study to be, so it's not luck. It's the effort you put in. And it's not sacrifice. It's effort. Effort is great. Sacrifice is, well, I'm missing something here. I'm sacrificing something. You don't sacrifice anything. You just are doing what you love the most. So it's not sacrifice.
We talked about in the first episode, always be humble and kind. And that came right back up here in terms of your humility. Again, the root of that word is humility comes from soil to stay grounded. And Sylvain, I hope you'll talk about yourself here, but it's okay if you want to talk about Celine Dion or Tiger Woods or one of the most remarkable clients that you have. I heard recently that you have an IQ of 144 or higher, but we'll just keep that for another time.
Who told you that?
You have every reason to brag. You're super intelligent. You've worked with the best in their sport. What is it about this humility? How do you maintain it, and why, from your understanding, do those great athletes and performers that you work with have that humility?
Because they know what it takes to get there. And they know that they are an example, that the only reason why they are pro athletes, it's not because of yourself. It's because the day that you become a pro athlete, or you are known like Celine Dion or all of these big names, it's nothing about you. It's about what you give to the world. Like, meaning that there's power that is given to you. There's something that's, people will listen to you. People will follow you. And this has come with great engagement, with great responsibilities, responsibility, being able to give response, and meaning that responsibility is something not to take lightly. It's something important that I was given this, I was given this great life, and, being, a model for people, being, people will follow you because of who you are. And that's why I think it's important for them to become a model, a role model, because the impact they have is so huge. And that's why I always, pray. I always pray that people become leaders, that are great leaders, and they will teach the road to follow, and not the opposite, not the other way around. That's why when you become well known as these people, you have to be humble. And the ground is this: in order for you and I to trust one another, there's a trust that has to be made. That trust comes from my root. Who am I? Deep laid down. So if you look at a tree, what we see of the tree is the trunk, we see the branch, and we see the leaves, right? This is what we see. But what we don't see of someone, this is way more important. This is what is feeding the tree. This is the roots that are going underneath the ground that we don't see. This is the work behind. This is everything you've done in your life to be successful that people don't see. People see the results. They see the trunk, they see the branch, they see the leaves, but they don't know that what makes this tree to stand tall has the same length of underground roots. The roots is as big as the branch. Otherwise, it wouldn't stay. And that's what is making this tree to be alive. So human being is exactly the same. We have all roots. This is everything we've done in order to be able to stand and to be anchored in what we do. The trunk is our intention. What's my intention? So what we don't see is my integrity. My integrity is so important. My integrity is who I am. No matter where I am, no matter who I am, I'm always the same person. This is my integrity. You can make mistake in life, but you cannot make a mistake of integrity. That would be stealing. That would be not being nice. But integrity is first. This is so important. The second thing is my intention. Sometimes I can make mistakes, but my intention was right. I always had the right intention. The right intention is so important. I can make a mistake, but it was not my intention. I'm sorry if I said something that hurts you. I'm really sorry. So in life, there's 3 words you really have to learn: please, thank you, and I'm sorry. If you have those 3 words, there's so many things you can do. Please, thank you, and I'm sorry. So my root as my ground is this is my integrity. My trunk is my intention. What's the intention that I have? The branch is all of my skills, my hard skills and my soft skills. And hard skills and soft skills came from the army. So the hard skills. Hard skills is all of the things that you have to do, But soft skills is how do I enter? How do I am with you? How nice am I with you? Things that we call it soft skills, but soft skills is so important. Listening carefully, having empathy with people, being able to place myself in your shoes, not judging you, but understanding you and listening to you and be 100% with you. Like we're doing at this moment. There's no other place on this planet that would rather be than being here with you to talk to you, Mark. Because the first time I talked to you, I thought you were 45 years old. Not because of the way you look, but because of the maturity that you have. This is why I love to talk to you. I know you're someone that is deep inside, so deep. You are grounded, and you always wanted to do good for others. That's why you created this. That's why I'm here with you. This is a privilege for me to be able to talk to all of the people that are following you. And as I said, that's intention. But my intention is to help people, so that's why I'm here. And the skills that I have is the things that I have learned, the soft and the hard skill. And probably the soft skills come from my family of being able to be nice, humble, and the hard skills, all the things that I've learned in school and stuff that helping me to have knowledge to help you and help other people. So the knowledge is important. This is the branch. And the last thing is the results. The results is the leaves. This is what comes out. So if you are integrity, if you have good intention, if you have all of the hard and soft skills, the branch, all of the possibility that you have, the results of this will give you a lot of leaves. That tree. So human being is exactly like that. I feel exactly the same. There's a lot of things that we don't see that makes a person what the person is. And these are the things that they do in silence and outside the training times on the gym, not when people are, applauding you and stuff like that. This is all of the hard stuff you do on your own when no one sees you.
So wonderful. The first thing that came to my mind was the Gospel of Luke 6:43 about no bad tree bears good fruit and no good tree bears bad fruit. So by the fruits you will know them. And that's how you kind of wrapped up your answer in terms of look at the results. And it starts with somebody's intention. I that's one of my favorite words. I've created a blog called Intentionally. Like, I believe if you have the right heart posture and intention, right, you are going to mess up sometimes the result, but as long as you had the right intention. As we wind down here, if you'll allow me, I'm sorry. I'm going to keep this all about you. So please let me keep it all about you here. There's a saying that I love. No man steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man. And we spoke 5 years ago, and I'm very curious, Sylvain, because you made that comment that you thought I was 45, and we are aging in life and different things like this. So what do you feel is something that is different about you from 5 years ago, and what's the same?
Well, my mom passed away like 6 years ago, and my dad 4 years ago. So we were talking to one another right in between, I think, of those those big loss that I had, and I think they're always with me, and they will always be with me. So, and I only think of one thing, is that if I can be as good as my parents were with me, that I am with my children, my life would be a success, a huge success. And I think if I come back to 5 years ago and where I am today, is I I have a wife in my life that is making me a better person. And my kids are now working with me. And I feel like, I've been away when they were younger. Sometimes I had to travel a lot, and I was like feeling, you know, guilt of not being as much as I would have loved to. But I'm far in Canada, and most of my work is either in Europe, in Asia, or in the States. So I have to travel a lot. And every time I travel, I hate it because I was leaving home and I could not be as close to my my kids. And today I feel like, okay, I'm giving you back something. This business that I built and I was away for, now I can give it back to you. So, and we can be together. And you are way better than I am. My son played hockey as a professional hockey player in Sweden, and he has made it an MBA. And he went to Harvard University to do disruptive business. So disruptive business is so important. Is the way to see things that people don't see. And he's taking the lead of being the CEO of Biotonix, which is way
Wow.
better than I. But he didn't want to take it at first. He said, "I want to make sure I do all of the jobs before I can take this."
Mhm.
And it's all the employees, my partners, because I call them all my partners. We're 25 of us. They say, "Hey, Vincent, you have to take the job. You have to be the CEO because you are so good." So I didn't name him. It was named by the people. So a good leader is people that people wants to follow. So to me, even though I was away from my family to build this business, I feel like I'm giving it back to them now. So knowing that, you know, I want to be, but they always tell me, no, that you were there. Every time we needed you, you were there. But to me, I felt like, and it's hard. And it's probably the same thing with people listening to us. You feel like, I want to do that, but at the same time, I want to be close to my family. And you want to feed your family, you want to work hard. And when you're away, so there's someone who told me something very important. And I will always remember this. When you are going away because of your job and you're away from home because of your job, people are not paying you for the time you're making with them. They're paying you for the time you're away from your family.
Mm.
And there's no price for that, meaning that you're never too much paid because we paid people for what they bring, but also because of the time they're away from their family. And I remember that for the rest of my life because I said, okay, this is important. This is a sentence that makes sense and resonate to me because now when I'm away, I'm bringing something back to my family. So we don't have many lives. We only have one life with the same head and the same heart, no matter where we go. So we have to be happy wherever we go, and we have to bring, love and joy to where we go. So be nice to one another. And today it's like everybody are saying whatever they think. It's like, oh, I'm saying what I think, but sometimes they don't think of what they're saying. This, so we should do the opposite. Think before you say something, and make sure you're not hurting anyone,
Mm.
because you're gonna regret.
And not only that, it's not just the head, it's not just the heart, but the hands as well. Like you gave us on the
Hence,
Triple H, and I've always been thought about it this way: what makes us different as humans, right, to that of rats and other different animals and mammals that we share over 90% of the same DNA about, is our ability to communicate and use our hands. And if we
yeah,
communicate well and use our hands well, then we're on the right path. As a final thought, as I was listening back to our first episode together, you said this beautiful line as a trailing thought. You said, a love for loving, a love for loving. So not only to just love somebody, but to love loving them. I thought that was a really beautiful line because it just shows the kind of heart that you have and you've always had. I hope individuals will go and learn more about Sylvain Guimond on all his channels and Biotonix. And I kind of want to give you the microphone to wrap us up. But thank you so much for coming on here during June, Men's Mental Health Month, just to talk to me about Claude, but also ways to navigate this world with your hands, with your heart, and with your head. So I'll leave it to you. Thank you so much for the love for loving, and I appreciate our relationship so much, Sylvain.
Thank you so much. And I think the last sentence I'd like to give is the first time we talked to one another, I really appreciate you, and I really enjoy and love what I was seeing and hearing from you. And 5 years after that, it's just stronger. Mark, you are someone very special, and I love you, buddy. Love you a lot. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to you and your people. And hopefully with the talk we had, we can help more people. So thank you. And I really appreciate you. You're a great human being. Thank you.
And I can't wait to get up to Quebec and Montreal very soon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're more than welcome. And all of the people watching today, you're welcome. If you come to Montreal, you call me. My phone number is 514-915-5183. That's my cell phone number. You call me. And all of you, you're welcome to Montreal.
God bless you, Sylvain.